I'm a travel lover and I'm sort of a travel credit cards expert. So of course I love travel credit cards and I think I can get so much value out of them. That said, I actually don't think travel credit cards are best for most people. I think cashback cards are really easy, simple to use. So I actually recommend most people use a cashback credit card. But in this video, I'm going to break down the pros and cons of each so you can decide which type of rewards credit card is best for you. Today we are talking about travel rewards versus cashback credit cards. When searching for a rewards credit card, there are typically two buckets that rewards cards fall into. There are cashback cards and there are travel rewards credit cards. Cashback cards are exactly what they sound like. You earn cash back for your spending. So typically you spend money and you'll earn 1 to 2% back in the form of cash for every purchase that you've made on that credit card. Now, I think one of the most underrated things that we consider when it comes to credit cards is actually understanding the earnings rate. Now, travel credit cards, it can be really complicated to understanding what actually you're earning. With cashback cards, it's really simple. If your cashback card offers you 2% back, then you spend $100 at the grocery store, you get $2 back. Really straightforward. That sort of goes in line with ease of redemption. Now, with travel credit cards, again, it's gonna be hard to redeem those points in many cases, but with cash, it's easy. Now, most cashback credit cards won't send you actual dollar bills in the mail, but they do give you cash back in a form that you ask for. It could be something like a direct deposit to your bank account. You might get a check sent in your mail if you opt into that. Once you have that cash, you can spend it however you'd like. So you could definitely put it into your vacation fund and buy a trip with your credit card rewards, or you might just simply use that cash to pay for all your everyday expenses. We all know how to spend cash, so if you want to put your credit card rewards to paying next month's rent, definitely go for it. Now, many credit cards have annual fees, but the great thing about cashback cards is they tend to not have any annual fees. There are a few cashback credit cards that do have annual fees, but those are few and far between. Now, I have a whole separate video on understanding whether or not your credit card's annual fee is worth it. And certainly many annual fee credit cards have so many perks that make them worth it. But the reality is annual fees are still an extra fee that you have to pay that you probably don't want to pay. So if your cashback credit card doesn't have an annual fee, that's certainly great. Now, the trade-off, again, if you're not paying an annual fee, you should expect to get fewer perks. The higher the annual fee, typically the more perks you'll get. Now, cashback credit cards do offer some extra benefits beyond just earning cash for your spending. But again, I want you to temper your expectations for these extra benefits. Now, there are some benefits you might find. Check with your individual cashback credit card. One benefit that I see increasingly often that I really love is cell phone protection. So if your cell phone gets stolen or maybe the screen gets cracked, then you can actually get some sort of cell phone insurance, assuming that you pay your cell phone bill monthly with that credit card. You might also find something like rental car insurance if you decline coverage at the counter, sometimes even trip insurance. This can save you many hundreds of dollars depending on the nature of your trip. Again, check your credit card benefits because it might not just be earning cash back, but you could also earn some travel-related benefits as well. With travel rewards credit cards, every spending that you do, you'll earn travel points or miles. Now, within the travel card space, there are kind of two sub-buckets. There are the travel brand specific cards, and then there are more general travel credit cards. So what I mean by that is that if you have a brand specific credit card, you might earn hotel points specific to a hotel. So a Hilton branded credit card would earn Hilton Honors points. A United airline card might earn miles that you can only use at United flights. You might also have a more general travel rewards credit card, and those are cards tied to certain banks like Chase or American Express, where you'll earn points specific to that bank. So with Chase, you would earn Chase Ultimate Rewards points, or American Express earns you membership rewards points. You can then use these points to book travel within their portals, or sometimes you can actually transfer them to partners. So Chase, for example, partners with Hyatt, so you can spend your Chase Ultimate Rewards points transferring them to the World of Hyatt program. Now, again, the first thing that I want to talk about is understanding the earnings rate. You might have a travel rewards credit card that offers you 2x points at restaurants, but that does not mean that your $100 restaurant bill is going to get you $2 worth of points. Points have different values depending on not just the issuer, so maybe a Hilton point has a different value than a Marriott point, but even the value varies depending on how you redeem them. So 2 points might go a lot farther at one Hilton property than a different Hilton property. This can be really confusing to understand what your points are actually worth. Say you have 2 sign-up bonus offers to consider. One credit card, let's call it brand A, offers 120,000 points, while the other, let's call it brand B, offers 20,000 points. It might seem like brand A's 120,000 point offer is clearly better, but it might not be. If brand A points are only worth a half a cent each, then that's $600 in value. If brand B points are worth 4 cents each, then that's $800 in value. If it's from a different bank and for a different type of brand, 20,000 points could actually be more valuable than 120,000 points. This is confusing, this is complicated. Luckily, NerdWallet has really handy calculators on its website where you can enter the value of your points for each specific brand. So you can see exactly what 100,000 Hilton points are worth on the Hilton calculator versus what 100,000 IHG points are worth on the IHG calculator. But the reality is you're probably not going to be pulling out your NerdWallet points calculator everywhere you go for every grocery purchase. So I just want you to understand that understanding what your points are actually worth can sometimes be more trouble than it's worth. Now let's talk about redemption. Redemption, as I alluded to, it can also be really tricky. Now, first off, redemption can be restraining. So if you have a credit card that only earns points with a specific hotel brand or only miles with a specific airline, you are by and large tied to booking travel with that specific brand. Sometimes they let you transfer and book with other brands, but sometimes that might devalue the points. And the reality is you're gonna get the most value from that brand. The challenge is, say that you're flying to a city that your airline miles won't actually serve that destination. Now you can't use your points to book a free flight. Maybe you're staying in a city and you have a whole bunch of points for a certain hotel chain, but there's another hotel that's just way cheaper that you would rather book instead. Again, you don't have points for that hotel chain, so you're sort of left with this confusion of, do I sit on my points that I'm not going to use? Do I use them to pay for a more expensive hotel? Again, there are also some other redemption limitations. Sometimes you can only redeem your miles for certain flights. Sometimes there are blackout dates, so you can't redeem your hotel points on a really popular day, say on 4th of July might be a common one. When it comes to annual fees, there are certainly many travel rewards credit cards that don't have annual fees, but many do. The good thing is that typically there's a correlation. The higher the annual fee, the better the perks. I just want to be clear that annual fees sort of suck you in a sense, because you have to keep paying them in order to get the benefits of the card that you might be lured to. Now, some of the brand-specific credit cards might allow you to maintain your points or miles in that branded account, even if you choose to close the credit card. Check with your credit card because rules can vary by specific card. When it comes to more of the general travel credit cards, here is where I want you to be a little cautious. Some of these really premium credit cards, the ones with annual fees, make your points worth more when you redeem them for travel. A common one is that you might see that your points are worth 1.5x when redeemed for travel with that card's travel portal. Now, that's really a great way to save on travel, but you might decide, I don't want to pay that annual fee anymore, and you might choose to downgrade or cancel that card. If you downgrade that card, you'll probably still retain your points, but you lose that bonus 1.5x when redeemed for travel. You can only redeem those points at 1 cent each, which makes them inherently less valuable. So I would encourage you to spend your points as soon as you can. At least spend them before you choose to cancel or downgrade that card, because you do risk losing your points and miles if you stop paying the annual fee. Of course, annual fee cards do tend to mean better benefits, so I want to talk about some of my favorites. Now, I've discussed all of these in lots of other YouTube videos, so check out the NerdWallet channel to learn more, but I'm going to quickly highlight some of my favorites. They include TSA PreCheck that gets you to a shorter airport security line, or at least a certainly faster one. You can also get Priority Pass lounge access from a lot of travel credit cards. This gets you into lounges at airports where there's typically free food, free coffee, sometimes even free alcohol. If you have a credit card tied to a certain brand, often that means automatic elite status. With elite status, you can get perks like you're first in the upgrade list to get that preferred seat on the airline. You might have priority boarding at hotels. You might be the first to get the room upgrade, so even if you paid for just a generic queen bedroom, you might be upgraded to the queen suite with the awesome ocean view. These kinds of perks are really, really nice, and they're typically reserved for people who have elite status. You can often get elite status at no cost as long as you hold the credit card, assuming you paid the credit card's annual fees. Now, these perks definitely can be worth it, especially if you travel and you travel often at those specific brands. So we've weighed out the pros and cons of each. Now it is time for you to choose a credit card. So how do you choose? It may sound obvious, but I want you to choose a credit card based on your spending. Now, there's actually two things I mean by this. The first is your everyday spending. Where do you spend the most money? Look for a credit card that offers you bonus points in those categories. So if you've got a huge family to feed, then you might want to look for a credit card that earns bonus points or miles or cash back on grocery spending. If you've got a long commute, then you might favor a credit card that offers bonus points or miles on gas spending. Now, there's another thing that I want you to think about when it comes to spending, and that's how you'll spend your rewards or use those other perks. If you don't really think that you're going to travel this year, then you might not actually want to have a travel credit card. You're just going to have this accumulation of points and miles that you're not going to spend this year. It would be probably better for you to just have cash back so you can spend that on your gas bill or whatever it is that you're spending money on, which I guarantee you is something. The bottom line, cashback versus travel rewards credit cards. I love travel rewards credit cards. I think that the benefits that they have are so worth it when you can truly use and maximize them. But the reality is it can be really complicated to understand how to actually use them. It can be complicated to understand what they're worth. I get paid to do this full time, so it's fun for me and it's something that I have a lot of time devoted to do. My boss literally wants me to do this. But the reality is, do you have the extra time to have a second job to understand what your points and miles are worth? If not a second job, it's at least a hobby, which you might not want to make time for. In that case, I love the simplicity of cashback credit cards, and a cashback card might be the right one for you. I'm Sally French, a travel and rewards writer for NerdWallet. My favorite underrated credit card perk is global entry, which includes TSA PreCheck. I've got a whole separate video on that, which I encourage you to check out. But for now, if you liked this video, please make sure to like and subscribe.